6 wives, 6 fates, only one survived. The story of Henry VIII is a tale of love, betrayal, and power. Welcome to the Tudor court. The year was 1509. Across England, church bells tolled in every town and village, not for mourning but for celebration. A young prince, barely 18 years old, had ascended the throne of England. His name was Henry Tudor, second monarch of the Tudor dynasty. To his subjects, he appeared almost divine. Tall, athletic, and strikingly handsome, with fiery red gold hair and piercing eyes that seemed to look straight into the soul. He was everything a Renaissance prince should be. Charismatic, ambitious, and capable of inspiring loyalty with a single glance. England at the dawn of the 16th century was a nation in transition. Just 24 years earlier, Henry's father, Henry VII, had won the throne after defeating Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth, ending the Bloody Wars of the Roses. That conflict had torn the kingdom apart, leaving deep scars of mistrust and devastation. Now, the young Henry inherited not only the crown, but also the enormous responsibility of uniting a fragile nation. His father had promised stability. Now it was Henry's task to deliver it and to make the Tudor dynasty a name remembered for generations. Unlike his cautious and sometimes dour father, Henry VIII dazzled all who met him. He could sing, compose music, and dance with the grace of a courtier. He excelled at jousting and hunting, speaking several languages and moving through the court with a commanding presence. Ambassadors from France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire often noted not just his physical stature, but his intelligence and charm. He seemed a king born to rule and to captivate. Yet behind the golden image, challenges loomed. England, though recovering, remained vulnerable. Alliances with France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire were crucial. And in this world of shifting loyalties and dynastic maneuvering, marriage was more than love or companionship. It was a tool of diplomacy, a weapon, and perhaps the most important decision a king could make. For Henry, the crown was both a blessing and a burden. Though he reveled in the pomp of kingship, he was acutely aware of his responsibilities. The Tudor line was still young and fragile, legitimacy a constant concern in a country still haunted by civil war. The key to securing the dynasty's future lay in producing heirs, especially sons who could carry England's hopes forward. Every decision from court politics to foreign alliances was colored by this singular, unyielding pressure. Even before he became king, Henry's life was intertwined with destiny. Betrothed as a child to Catherine of Aragon, daughter of the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, he was already positioned to solidify England's international standing. Catherine had been the widow of Henry's older brother, Arthur, who had died young, leaving the alliance with Spain in jeopardy. Henry, the second son, now represented a solution to that political puzzle. As he stood on the steps of Westminster Abbey for his coronation, England's hopes and anxieties converged on the young king. People saw a symbol of promise, vigor, and the dawn of a new era. The Golden Prince, they believed, would bring glory and security to the realm. Little did they know that his reign would be defined not only by wars, laws, and reforms, but also by 6 women whose lives, loves, and tragedies would become inseparable from his own story. In the weeks following his coronation, Henry married Catherine of Aragon. The ceremony dazzled the court, a display of wealth, pageantry, and devotion. Catherine, gracious, noble, and deeply religious, seemed the perfect queen. For a moment, all England believed in a golden age. Yet history, as it often does, had other plans. The union, while initially promising, would eventually face obstacles that tested love, loyalty, and faith, and would mark only the beginning of a series of marriages that would define the Tudor era. Henry VIII's union with Catherine of Aragon was more than a marriage. It was the merging of duty, ambition, and love, all wrapped in the intricate web of European politics. Catherine, daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, had spent years in England, caught between her destiny and uncertainty. Betrothed as a child to Henry's elder brother, Arthur, she had lived in limbo after his sudden death. Now, Henry VIII, the new king, would inherit not only the crown of England, but also the responsibility to honor that alliance. The marriage was carefully watched by European courts. England's stability, its relationship with Spain, and the balance of power in Europe all hinged on this union. Catherine, raised in the strict and devout court of Spain, approached her new role with grace, piety, and intelligence. She quickly became admired by the English people, who saw in her a queen who could inspire respect and loyalty, not merely awe. The early years of their marriage were filled with hope and ceremony. The grandeur of their wedding reflected the aspirations of both kingdoms. Henry, young and energetic, was captivated by Catherine's poise and beauty, though it is said that the couple's affection was also strengthened by mutual respect and shared duty. In the royal court, Catherine navigated the delicate politics of influence and favor with skill, earning the admiration of nobles and servants alike. Yet even amidst this idyllic beginning, pressures loomed. The king's desire for a male heir weighed heavily on Catherine. She gave birth to several children, but only Mary survived infancy, a daughter. Henry's yearning for a son, driven by the fragility of his young dynasty, created tension. The court whispered, alliances shifted, and Henry's satisfaction began to wane. Still, Catherine remained steadfast, balancing personal devotion with her obligations as queen. Catherine's influence extended beyond domestic life. She advised Henry on diplomatic matters, offering insights that reflected her knowledge of European politics. Her presence reinforced England's alliance with Spain, and she acted as a mediator in court disputes, demonstrating wisdom and patience beyond her years. Yet time revealed the fragility of even the most dutiful of unions. Henry, restless and ambitious, began to seek fulfillment beyond the duties of his marriage. Though Catherine's loyalty never wavered, the court's intrigue and the king's desires foreshadowed the challenges ahead. The seeds of discord were planted, not through Catherine's actions, but through the convergence of dynastic ambition, the king's temperament, and the relentless pursuit of a male heir. Through it all, Catherine maintained her dignity. She was a queen who understood the stakes of her position, balancing devotion to her husband with service to her country. Her life at court was a careful dance of propriety, faith, and subtle influence. Every word she spoke, every gesture she made, was scrutinized by nobles and foreign envoys alike. She carried the weight of the crown with grace, embodying the virtues expected of a Tudor queen. The marriage of Henry and Catherine of Aragon set the tone for what would become one of the most infamous sequences of royal unions in history. It was a marriage of promise and politics, of duty and desire, and it marked the beginning of a journey that would intertwine the lives of 6 remarkable women with the reign of a king whose ambitions knew no bounds. Anne Boleyn arrived at Henry VIII's court like a gust of wind, unpredictable, energetic, and impossible to ignore. Born into a minor noble family, she was educated in the Netherlands and France, returning to England with sophistication, charm, and an intellect that set her apart from other women at court. But Anne was more than accomplished. She was ambitious. She knew her beauty and wit could be tools in the intricate dance of power that defined Tudor politics. Henry VIII, still young and infatuated, noticed Anne immediately. Unlike Catherine of Aragon, whose grace and devotion commanded respect, Anne challenged the king. She teased, provoked, and drew him into a game of desire and intrigue. The court buzzed with speculation, and the king's obsession with her became the driving force behind some of the most dramatic political shifts in English history. Yet Henry's infatuation came with complications. The church forbade divorce, and Anne would not be just another mistress. She demanded legitimacy, influence, and the promise of a son. Henry, frustrated by his lack of a male heir with Catherine, saw in Anne both the solution and the temptation. The king's advisors, foreign ambassadors, and the English people watched closely. Knowing that this affair could either strengthen or destabilize the monarchy, the court became a battlefield of intrigue. Catherine of Aragon, steadfast and devout, remained dignified despite Henry's growing obsession. Meanwhile, Anne maneuvered skillfully, cultivating alliances and asserting her intelligence. She flattered, argued, and manipulated with subtlety, ensuring her position while keeping the king enthralled. By 1533, Henry VIII had made a decision that would reshape England forever. He sought an annulment of his marriage to Catherine, a move that required breaking with the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. Parliament passed the necessary laws, and England's religious landscape shifted dramatically. Henry married Anne Boleyn, a union that signaled not just personal triumph, but political revolution. The birth of their daughter, Elizabeth, while a disappointment in terms of producing a male heir, cemented Anne's role in history. However, triumph quickly gave way to peril. Anne's ambition and fiery temperament, once admired, became dangerous liabilities. Rumors of infidelity and courtly conspiracy circulated, fueled by jealous nobles and frightened courtiers. In 1536, Anne was arrested, accused of adultery, incest, and treason, charges likely fabricated to eliminate her. Her trial was swift, her conviction certain. Anne Boleyn, the queen who had captivated a king and changed the course of a nation, was executed at the Tower of London, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through English history. Anne's story was a turning point. Through her, Henry VIII's obsession with a male heir triggered the English Reformation, altering religion, law, and society. Elizabeth, her daughter, would eventually rise to become one of England's greatest monarchs, proving that Anne's influence endured far beyond her tragic death. After the turbulent and tragic reign of Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's heart and court craved stability. Jane Seymour emerged as the antithesis of her predecessor, quiet, obedient, and gentle. Born into a noble but unassuming family, Jane had served in the households of both Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn. She had observed the perils and power of queenship, learning to navigate the court with subtlety and grace. Henry, still mourning Anne yet drawn to Jane's serenity, found in her a calm he had never known. Unlike Anne, Jane did not challenge the king with boldness or wit. Instead, her modesty, kindness, and tact drew him in. Courtiers admired her humility and perceived loyalty, while Henry found solace in her presence, seeing in her the promise of domestic peace and a partner who could provide the long-awaited male heir. In 1536, mere days after Anne Boleyn's execution, Henry married Jane. The speed shocked the court, yet Jane's tact and intelligence quickly endeared her to those around her. She skillfully balanced mourning, decorum, and duty, demonstrating her understanding of the delicate courtly balance. Jane's relationship with Henry was complex. Born of affection, desire, and the king's urgent need for succession, it was marked by both tenderness and political significance. For Jane, the role of queen extended beyond the personal. She managed the household, advised Henry in subtle ways, and maintained harmony among courtiers. Her patience and humility allowed her to wield quiet influence, shaping policies and smoothing conflicts that could have erupted under a more confrontational queen. Jane's gentle approach contrasted sharply with Anne Boleyn's fiery ambition, providing a reprieve from the chaos of court intrigue. The pivotal moment of Jane's queenship came in 1537 when she gave birth to Edward. The child was a boy, the son and heir Henry had long desired. England rejoiced, the Tudor line seemingly secured, and Jane's position was solidified. Yet the triumph was bittersweet. Jane fell gravely ill after childbirth, succumbing to postnatal complications. Henry, stricken with grief, a rare display of vulnerability, mourned deeply. Jane Seymour, the only one of his wives to die naturally, was buried with honor, remembered as the mother of the heir who would one day become King Edward VI. Jane's story highlights the power of quiet strength. She navigated the perils of court life with patience, intelligence, and dignity. Her life, though tragically short, left an indelible mark on Henry VIII and the Tudor dynasty. Through her, Henry achieved the succession he had longed for, and for a brief moment, England experienced the hope of stability, domestic harmony, and a secure future. By 1540, Henry VI's quest for marital stability had led him to Anne of Cleves, a German princess whose family promised a strategic alliance in Europe. Unlike his previous marriages, which had been driven by desire or obligation, This union was largely political, a means to secure England's position against France and the Holy Roman Empire. The court, aware of the stakes, prepared for what was expected to be a grand and harmonious marriage. Anne arrived in England with intelligence, courtesy, and diplomatic training. Her family had emphasized her education and poise, preparing her for the delicate demands of a foreign court. Yet the most important audience was the king himself. Henry had seen Anne's portrait, painted to convey charm and elegance, and eagerly anticipated the meeting. What followed, however, was unexpected. Upon seeing Anne in person, Henry was disappointed. Though Anne conducted herself with grace and politeness, she did not match the king's expectations of beauty and allure. Henry, already older and more demanding, reportedly found her appearance underwhelming. Anne, aware of the delicate situation, remained courteous and cooperative, never voicing complaint. Her diplomacy would prove essential in the months to come. The marriage proceeded, but the incompatibility was clear. Henry's frustration grew, and Anne, perceptive and pragmatic, recognized that her survival depended not on passion or obedience, but on clever negotiation. Within months, the marriage was annulled. Remarkably, Anne emerged from the situation unscathed, granted the title of the king's sister, a generous settlement, and a respected position at court. Unlike other queens, she avoided scandal, execution, or disgrace, navigating the perils of royal expectation with intelligence and tact. Anne's story is a testament to the political nature of some of Henry's unions. Not all marriages were matters of love or desire. Some were calculated moves in the chess game of European diplomacy. Her brief reign as queen demonstrates that survival often required wit as much as beauty or devotion. In a court where missteps could be fatal, Anne of Cleves exemplified strategic patience, turning what might have been a humiliating failure into a story of resilience and prudence. By 1540, Henry VIII was older, larger, and increasingly tyrannical, yet still captivated by youth and beauty. Catherine Howard, barely a teenager, entered the court as a lively and vivacious young woman, radiating charm and innocence. She had grown up in the households of nobles, aware of her status but naive to the deadly politics of the Tudor court. Her beauty and energy caught the king's eye, and she soon became the center of attention. Catherine's marriage to Henry, following the political union with Anne of Cleves, was both personal and impulsive. The king, seeking passion and companionship, in his later years was smitten. The court buzzed with excitement and speculation. Catherine's youth and vivacity contrasted sharply with the aging monarch, creating a dynamic that was both alluring and dangerous. Initially, Catherine enjoyed the privileges of queenship with exuberance. She charmed courtiers, entertained with wit, and seemed to bring a spark of life to the royal household. Yet her inexperience and flirtatious nature became liabilities. The court, a hotbed of gossip and intrigue, soon uncovered her past indiscretions and relationships, which Henry's advisors presented as threats to the king's honor and authority. By 1541, the consequences were inevitable. Catherine was arrested and charged with adultery and treason. The charges, though partially based on youthful folly, were treated as capital crimes. Her trial was swift, the verdict predetermined. Catherine Howard, the young queen whose beauty had enthralled a king, was executed at the Tower of London, her life cut tragically short. Catherine's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of the Tudor court. In a world where ambition, beauty, and loyalty intersected with ruthless power, even innocence could not guarantee survival. Her brief reign as queen was marked by charm, vivacity, and ultimately a fatal collision with the harsh realities of monarchy. The tale of Catherine Howard also highlights Henry's transformation. Once a charismatic, ambitious young king, he had grown increasingly suspicious, authoritarian, and obsessed with legacy. Each wife reflected not only his desires, but the evolution of his personality and rule. Catherine's tragic end underscored the peril that awaited any woman who could not fully navigate the treacherous currents of Henry VIII's court. By 1543, Henry VIII was a king transformed by decades of power, passion, and peril. His health was failing, his body burdened by injuries and obesity, yet his mind remained shrewd and commanding. Enter Catherine Parr, a woman of remarkable intelligence, experience, and tact. Unlike any of Henry's previous wives, Catherine was prepared to navigate the dangerous waters of the Tudor court with wisdom and diplomacy. Catherine's upbringing had emphasized education, religion, and propriety. She was politically astute, socially adept, and skilled in the art of survival. Qualities that would prove vital in a court where charm and beauty had proven insufficient for safety. From the moment of their meeting, Catherine understood that her position required more than obedience. It demanded insight, strategy, and patience. Their marriage was markedly different from Henry's previous unions. Catherine acted as stepmother to Henry's children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward, guiding them with kindness and firm judgment. She managed the household, mediated conflicts among courtiers, and even influenced Henry's religious reforms, promoting learning and literacy at court. Her presence brought stability, intellect, and calm to a household that had seen both passion and tragedy. Catherine's diplomacy extended beyond domestic affairs. She maintained a delicate balance with courtiers and advisors, avoiding the pitfalls that had ensnared her predecessors. Her tactful handling of disputes and her ability to temper the king's volatile temperament ensured her survival in a court notorious for its ruthlessness. Catherine's intelligence, charm, and prudence allowed her to wield influence quietly, shaping decisions without attracting the dangers that had doomed earlier queens. In 1547, Henry VIII died, leaving Catherine as the widow of one of history's most infamous monarchs. She survived where 5 others had perished, a testament to her skill, wit, and careful navigation of power. She remarried Thomas Seymour, continuing her life with the same intelligence and grace that had defined her queenship, though tragically she died shortly after childbirth. Catherine Parr's story offers closure to the saga of Henry VIII's 6 wives. She represents the culmination of lessons learned from her predecessors. The importance of intelligence over beauty, diplomacy over charm, and survival over ambition. Through her life, we see the final evolution of Henry VIII as a king, older, reflective, yet still commanding. Catherine Parr not only survived one of the most dangerous courts in history, but also left an enduring legacy, influencing Henry's children and the future of England. The lives of Henry's 6 wives collectively illustrate the complex interplay of love, power, politics, and survival. Each woman left an indelible mark on England's history, shaping the monarchy, religion, and the nation's destiny. From Catherine of Aragon's steadfast loyalty to Anne Boleyn's fiery ambition, Jane Seymour's quiet strength, Anne of Cleves' diplomacy, Catherine Howard's tragic naivety, and Catherine Parr's intelligence and resilience, the stories of these queens reveal the human dimensions behind the grandeur of Tudor England.